Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 26 of Run to the Hills. Hope you're all well. Hope Bojo's announcement meant good news and the end is in sight for everybody in the UK. Hi, Gary. We're actually in matching blue outfits today.
Yes.
So you got the memo.
I got
Electric
my mic.
blue is this season's fashion. How are you? What's news?
It's been quite a good week, actually. Training has been pretty consistent. I did the 5 times by 5 minutes we chatted about, and this week is 6 times 5 minutes. So we'll see. I know. And then I did a threshold run, and then I did a fartlek run with Rex, which wasn't great, but I think you give yourself a bit of grace sometimes, and it was better than not doing it.
Why was it not great?
Well, he doesn't know when I want to run fast, and I don't know when he wants to run fast.
Are you blaming the dog?
Yeah, well, it's quite, in the Dean, there's lots of little short, sharp hills. So it's quite easy to get a workout, but I'll be just ready to go, and then he'll be sniffing after some deer or something that's just been there 5 minutes earlier. But it was fine. You know, it was better than not doing it. I quite enjoyed it. There's some massive landslides down the Dean, so transformed with all the kind of rain we've had. Anything else? We've been making our way through the Marvel series as a family, watching that. It's been quite good.
How's business? Anybody, anyone with races maybe coming back thinking I need more?
Well, I heard about a race not
medal
coming
holders.
back. This
Yeah.
All County Tops has been cancelled, unfortunately, and that's a pretty good race. If anybody, probably too detailed for me to talk about, but just Google Old County Top. That is a pretty tough fell race over in the Lake District. Other than that, I don't know, with the kind of government guidelines that were issued with yesterday, I'm not too sure if that has kind of made more races cancel, or I know I saw something on Facebook about the Lakeland 100 saying that.
What did they say?
Well, yeah, it looks like it's all going to go ahead unless something changes between now and July. That's something to look forward to for Hannah. she's
Yeah, should give a quick update on Hannah because she's doing so well, really well. We'll get her on the show again in a couple of weeks for her to. She might be like, Eddie, you said all this podcast is so hard, but she's really, the training is really progressing. Excellent. The volume is increasing. We've updated her strength. She's getting stronger. She's fitting everything in, which everybody knows at the moment is the hardest thing. Actually, is not doing training. It's just trying to juggle every day being different, keeping everybody at home happy, tears, and then that bit where you go, and can I go for a run? That awkward, like, all right, if I pop out just for 40 minutes, sometimes it feels like it's just the hardest thing to fit in the day, but she's doing really well.
It's a shame that sometimes running does become a stress, trying to fit it all in, the guilt. But yeah, if you can manage everything, it's a big plus. These days, you're never kind of totally disconnected. Your watch or your phone is always beeping away. But it's pretty nice just to get 45 minutes or an hour to yourself.
Tell you what I did yesterday. I treated myself. This is the saddest treat I've ever given myself. So I badgered away at the end. Over the weekend, I'd got all my work done. I got everything. So I tidied the house, made it very obvious that I was doing a lot of tidying to my husband and hoovering and cleaning and sorting. And then yesterday I went out, I dropped the kids at school and with my backpack and my skis in the van, and I drove up the mountain. Often I just try and do training from home because I always feel like any extra time faults just don't have that 15 minutes to drive somewhere. But I drove up the mountain, parked up, and I spent the whole day by myself going up and down the mountains on my skis. Wow. It was at the moment we've got amazingly hot weather, so the snow and then it freezes overnight, and so it's really icy in the morning. So I went out in like coat and gloves and hat, and the first like climb up, you're like slipping on your skis and you can't get your poles in. It's quite the heart was like, and then as soon as the sun comes up, it all melts, and then it's like this slushy and then I was like, oh my god, take all my clothes off. I've got far too much clothes on. But I spent 4 hours moving time. I think it's about 5.5 hours up in the middle of nowhere all by myself. I didn't, and had the really, really hard training. I drank all my water. I only took 4 squares of peanut butter sandwiches, and I treated every time. This is so sad. Every time I got to the top and had to de-skin my skis and ski back down, I let myself have like a shot of tea and a square sandwich square. And then by the time I did 2,000 meters on my skis, and the last up. I got to, and I was like sucking my camel pack, and there was, oh my God, there's no water left. There's no tea left. And there's like tiny crust of peanut butter sandwich. Bad planning again, Eddie, but oh, it was so nice. I didn't speak. So I skied back down in this like slush, sweaty mess and got back to the van. Had to go to Carrefour for the supermarket trip afterwards, which was emotional. But I then tried to talk, and I think it's the longest I've gone for months and months and months without nagging people. Okay. That annoying mum voice, like 6 hours. Oh, it was so good. So for someone who likes to talk a lot, I enjoyed that that therapy of just actually not having to speak. Us as endurance athletes, I think we kind of thrive on, once you get into it, those sort of long days where there's nothing.
Yeah.
I think that says a lot about maybe our brain, but I haven't done that you probably haven't either, being in lockdown, a long day where you don't have to think about anything else apart from getting to A to B and keeping yourself moving and fueling. And that to me, that's better than like anything. Like that to me is like a spa day.
I love it.
And I'd forgotten.
Getting lost on the trails for hours and hours. Preferably the weather's got to be nice. I don't want to be having to struggle on with horrible elements, but it's really magical just getting lost out on the trails. No music, no podcasts,
no time. So like you come home, I had to get the kids from school because I don't like it when I don't turn up to get them, but that I knew that I would be able to I'd have had enough by then, but that was such a treat to not actually have anything and just to have a long day just by myself. It's made me, I was on such a high, I couldn't go to sleep. I was like, oh my God, it felt so good. And then today I had a 2-hour, so I've started putting a bit more running back into my program now. And I had a 2-hour run on Sunday, and then this long day yesterday, and then another 2-hour run today. And I felt like Bambi because you've been pulling these heavy skis. I was like tripping over my ankles and like trying to run, and my feet are a bit numb from being in the like bashing on the boots. But it's fun, and I'm loving, as I've said before, mixing. It feels so refreshing to then like, oh, today I get to run. I don't have to pull the skis and think about shots of tea and peanut butter. It's so easy. I can just head out. I think it'd be good. I am envious, but I could quite easily go out and do another form of exercise, and I don't. I just run or do the kind of weighted hikes, and it does just kind of breaks it up. And if you still kind of think it's all part of the kind of training process, it's not like you're kind of dodging a session or anything like that. Sometimes I find like long runs quite arduous mentally. They can, especially when you're doing them quite a lot. But I found breaking it up with different sports, this doesn't seem then such a big deal for 3-4 hours on my skis, because you're going downhill, going up, you're changing kit. But you're still working through all those sort of mental processes of feeding and fueling and just being out there, being with yourself, which is a hard thing sometimes. We've heavily digressed, but it was a fun digression. Let's talk about our competition winner.
That's right. Yes, very good on Instagram. It's been really fun watching all the kind of people's posts over the weekend and the past few days. It's great. But we have a winner.
And we'll tell you how we used a professional system to choose our winner at random. I took a sip of tea, scrolled through the feed, and Gary said stop, and whoever I was looking at, we chose, and it's Chris Shannon. Box of vegan flapjacks going to be coming your way. I had a quick look on his Instagram feed. He's got a dog, looks like a puppy, and he's done the South Downs Way 100, so already is in our gang. So Chris, they'll be winging away. Let us know how you like them. And I saw lots of people really interested in the vegan flapjacks, so we're waiting. I'm still waiting. Tim sent me angry emails because he's had to pay custom tax now on the Chartered Custom man wouldn't let it over the border. This week, I had a chat with my very good friends, Jayson and Kim Cavill. Kim has been on the show. I think Jason's been on the show. They've both been on the show many years ago. They're old friends, have run to the hills. They're old friends of mine. And I just thought it would be nice to have a catch up with them. Last time we really saw Jayson, he was moving through it in the spine to the last 40 miles, which he then sadly had to pull out because of injury. So we talk a bit about about that. We talk about how they run a coaching business, how they've handled that this past year. We sort of tips and tricks that they've used with their clients, and personally as well. I thought it was really interesting. They were very honest about how they found the situation, and they're running plans for hopefully for this year. So enjoy listening to Jayson and Kim. Hi, Jayson and Kim. How are you? How's life in England? What's news?
I don't think there's any news, is there, about England?
It was a pregnant pause, then you both went, oh God, Eddie.
It snowed for a bit. It snowed for a bit.
Yeah, we had a whole week of winter.
And then it went in a day.
Was it quite a lot of snow? There was a lot of talk of snow.
It was, I guess it was for us.
It's winter.
On the top. It was.
Jason's like, it's nothing. It's
normal.
nothing. Now,
Sorry.
Yeah, you can.
Really, well, it was interesting, but a little bit frustrating because the Spine race was supposed to be beginning of January, then it was postponed to February. Obviously, it didn't happen, of course, but both of those weekends that it was scheduled, we've had loads of snow each time. So it would have been.
Would you have loved that? Would you have loved that?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The worse the weather, the better the adventure.
Jayson and Kim came and stayed out with me in the Alps 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, a few years ago, and you were a demon.
I don't know.
You were a demon in the snow. I remember trying to chase you down like a black ice road. Do you remember that, Kim? And Jayson just hooned it off without a fear, and you and I were like, well, that's just ridiculous. How does he do that? And then the same in like the really deep, we did a couple of like runs in like thigh deep snow, and you just were able to go through it like a mountain goat, and we'd be there going, oh, this is such a... We're going to talk about the Spine a little bit more, but let's kind of go back a bit. You both run a coaching business. We've a couple of times sent people your way to have a look at some of the videos that you put out on strength, on kettlebell workouts. Kim, can you tell us a little bit about your coaching business, how it sort of came about, and what you sort of offer to people?
Yeah, so it's Jayson started it
a few years ago.
A lot of years ago now, it seems like. And we started out just kind of, he was feeling his way around with it all. He had like one client that he would go running with, and and now it's kind of spiraled into something that's professional and like proper. So Jayson left his job to do it full time pretty quickly because he's much braver than I am. I joined him. I was doing it part time. So we coach people remotely. So we do it online, mostly over the phone, via email, and in person. And we coach people towards races or events that they've got. We coach some people that just want to be told what sessions to do each week to stay fit and healthy, and because they don't have to think about it. And yeah, we both went full time in 2016, I think. We were both full time by then. So it's grown a lot, and we've got a really good base. We've got a really nice community of athletes now. And yeah, so we just do it. We are big on the sort of holistic idea of it. So it's not just running, it's strength as well. It's mindset stuff and head stuff. And you do end up sort of being a counsellor almost as well, as a sort of friend and boss, I think some people see us as. I just got a message from a lady that's doing something crazy today, and she's doing more than we'd agreed on, and she was like, please don't shout at me.
That sounds very typical. And Jayson, how have you found one of the things I kind of really wanted to talk to you about was how have you found this year? How is that coaching set up? Because you've been doing it for quite a few years before COVID hit us. How has that changed this year? How has your relationship with the clients changed this year? Because I know for me, it's dramatically, I really feel like the clients that we've gone through this together, they're kind of like, I feel I know them so well now because I've really gone through it. Do you kind of feel the same?
Yeah, and it's been, I mean, obviously it's been difficult in so many ways for so many people, but it's been interesting as well in going through that process with people of obviously the situation, but also how that's impacted them with the races being cancelled, the limitations on what they can do or where they can go and things like that. So going through that whole process with people has been been quite interesting, and I think it's been quite rewarding as well for a lot of people, because they've gone away from being such goal driven, looking forward to races, training for a race, to actually, and I guess it is a bit of a kind of buzz phrase at the moment, but enjoying the process, that side of things, but actually understanding what that really means, rather than saying you're doing it, saying you're enjoying the process, but getting into the nitty gritty depth of what that really, really means. I don't think would have been able to do as easily if there was, you know, all these races tantalizing us away from what that really, that essence of what that, you know, enjoying the process really is. So that's been quite a good process to go through, and quite an education for me and Kim and the people we work with as well.
How have you managed to sort of get people to embrace that process? Because I'm sure it's been like a roller coaster, like, you know, you sort of start off and things get cancelled, and then you go back up again, then you go back down. How have you kind of kept people sort of focused on that process, or trying to get them to enjoy that process? Is there anything you've sort of learned as a coach?
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
So everyone will be some
even
people,
more different than we ever thought.
Oh, for sure. You know, some people have really, really struggled with it. Some people have gone, oh, yeah, actually, there's a bit of relief there, because they don't have that pressure now. You know, some people have used virtual challenges and things like that as well to keep them motivated. And you know, everybody has had a different kind of view on it and approach to it. And I think one of the important things is, as a coach, is making sure you're not applying the same thing to everybody, and really trying to understand that person and what's motivating them, or what they could potentially work on that isn't going to freak them out as well.
Like a lot of the people we coach, and I think you as well, Eddie, the focus is longer races or ultras. So quite often, if you've got quite a few ultras spread across the year, you don't have a chance to work on like the fundamentals or speed. Some people don't know what their 5k PB is, or it was from 5 years ago. So we've worked with some people that have been willing and able on just the more basic stuff. So building strength or building speed, or just stripping everything away and just focusing on enjoying running again, and not having a thing that they have to do, or the target that they have to reach. So yeah, it depends on the person. You create.
So yeah, for some for some people, they wanted a specific, you know, challenge to work to. So I created Cavill coaching fitness test.
Oh God, I can only imagine. Tell me about it.
Oh, you'd love it as well. You would love it. So it's a 2 mile run, best effort 2 mile run, any route you like, but you have to, you know, you have to be able to repeat it at any time of year, kind of thing. But yeah, 2 miles is a nice sick distance, I think. What else? 2 mile run, best effort as far as trying to jump as high, you know, best jump height to height effort.
Like vertical, you measure your height.
Yeah,
and
just like a tuck jump or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, do it up some steps. Then it was maximum amount of squats to a seat or platform you can do in 2 minutes. Maximum press ups in 2 minutes. And then the last bit was standing on one leg, how long you can stand on one leg. And the time was the average of the two.
But with your eyes closed.
Oh, with your eyes closed, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And then if you want to add some pull-ups in there as well, you can do.
You're not done, then there's pull-ups.
It's not, it wasn't, you know, it isn't, to be honest, the test kind of came from what I used to do when I was at 5'9" Commander. So we had a similar sort of test that we would do every now and then. So it was quite, it's quite good because it doesn't destroy you, but you know about it.
You might know about those squats the next day.
Yeah, that's fun. But yeah, so it's just kind of, and then you can come back to it 6 or 8 weeks or something and see how much better you are at suffering.
I've done a lot of that too. Little challenges, local challenges that people are like, I've got this route, you know, I've got this 5 mile route, 4 mile route, whatever. Let's go and do it. And then working through the process of training for it, sort of, but also adding in lots of other ingredients as well. So it's not just that focus and then going back to it. And nearly always it's a big learning effect, I think, as well. But what I've really enjoyed, like you said, is that I've had the time instead of that, because 99% of my clients are always working towards something. And when you've taken that away, it's hard for us as a coach to then go, because there's a whole blank page to fill. And you guys and I have often talked about actually how writing the plan is really easy. It's the actual managing the person, which is the hardest part. And I've really enjoyed filling in those blanks in loads of different ways, but having the time to teach people actually how to run and how to hurt in a different way to an ultra, to be like, well, how to hold the speed, and you can hold it, and how to hold the right speed, because if you start off at that pace, it's too fast, and all sorts of things like that I've never as a coach really been able to work with people that much, because it's nearly always about, well, we're working up to this race and then we're recovering and then we're taping. So it'll be really interesting when races are back on the calendar as to what if people might race a little bit less and be a bit more, we don't need a lot. I reckon that'll last a few months and then people will be like, I'm crazy jumping up. I know people will be crazy to see their mates as well, won't they? I know I am, to go to a race and pick your bib up and sit around and have a cold cup of tea and go to a
sitting around. Yeah, it's sitting around.
Chatting. Yeah, usually we go and do a race and we spend 3 times longer sitting around chatting than actually doing the race.
Best bit. That's the bit I miss. That's totally the best of it.
We missed our training days and camps. We usually, I think that was a big thing that we started doing to help with, as part of the coaching anyway. So we've always done that. Every year we've done a few of those, and we've definitely missed doing those this last year.
We were planning on working with, probably say it, with Trail Outlaws a bit more. We did a camp with them last January. Did a weekend with them and it was brilliant, and we were going to do a couple more days with them. We were going to do a couple more days locally in new venues and stuff, and we just never got the
fun
chance.
hanging out with other people, other runners that don't mind getting muddy and going out in the crap weather for runs and stuff. So
we'll do that when that's allowed again.
Sure.
That'll all be back. So tell me a little bit now about let's start with you, Kim, about how you've handled personally kind of go back to last year. What were your plans for last year? How did you kind of handle, and then how have you sort of handled the fact that we haven't had any races? What have you done in your own training, and what are you hoping to do this year? So
last year I should have, do you know, when you asked me that, I completely forgot.
Yeah, your face went, oh my God, last year.
I was going to do
out.
160.
What was I going to, no, I wasn't going to do that originally, was I?
You were going to do the
top drep, but there's something else.
The
Welsh one, the snow.
The
UTS 50. I was going to do the UTS 50 in June, and then the top dret in September, because I hadn't done any mountainy races for a few years, and I felt like I was sort of copping out a bit. It was the stuff that I find really hard, and I wanted to have a bit of an adventure instead of a race. So I was going to do those, and then obviously that didn't work. So I decided to do the Hard Mars 160 a couple of months before it was on. Again, in hindsight, probably wasn't long enough. I'd been training well, but maybe it wasn't long enough to prepare fully for that. That went wrong. That's a previous podcast that I talked to John about.
We'll put it on the show notes. You can listen to. It didn't go wrong. It was just an experience.
It was, but that made me realise that I could do it, because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to. Yeah. So I'm signed up again for it this year. So hopefully that's the end of May. Hard Mars 160 to finish it, and then I'm going to enter the top dret when it opens. I'm registered for it, so that's the mini Tour de Gion, isn't it? 80 odd miles in the Aosta Valley.
How much climbing is there in that one? Do you know off the top of your head? Must be a good few thousand.
Yeah, it's big. And if that doesn't happen, or if we can't go away to Italy or whatever this year, I'm looking at the other one that Mike Jones has set up, the Slate Trail Ultra in Wales again. So it's around the Snowdonia area, but it's not big hills. It's really pretty little route. I think it's 80 miles or so.
I think that would suit you.
Yeah.
Nice, undulating, not too long climbs, your strength there with the ups, but also with the downs and with the speed.
Yeah, and I don't have to do anything silly, ridgy or anything. So yeah, that's me this year.
So you're just training like just fitness for the moment, just kind of winter base?
Yeah, I mean, I've got the 160 in my head, to be fair, so I do want to start building up towards that now. I'm thinking about, it's my birthday on the 1st of April, so I'm thinking about doing like a backyard ultra thing, not in the backyard, just I'm thinking of doing every hour on the hour, doing 3 miles for 24 hours, but just 3 miles, not like more than that.
Let us know if you do.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that sounds super fun, but it sounds horrendous. But for you, I know you love that sort of stuff. That sounds super. What about Jayson? Last time you were in the public eye, we were watching you in the spine. The whole of the ultrarunning community was watching you on the dot buster, and sadly that didn't end quite as we wanted it to with your shin. Was it shin splints or was it just terrible shin inflammation? Who knows?
I don't know. I think
you sort of talked earlier that you would plan to come back to the spine already this year. So tell me now that's not happened. What's happening?
I mean, last year was a bit of it's weird because doing the spine seems like a long while ago now. So saying it was last year feels weird, but to be fair, it did take me a long while to recover from that. I only really got back to happily running in July and August when Damien and John Kelly roped me into supporting them on their amazing Pennine Way challenges. And to be honest, that was a really good kick up the arse for me to get back into training, to be able to actually go and even just keep up with them on those bits.
Who did you prefer? Did you run with both of them?
Oh, that's such an awful question.
Who was more fun?
You know what? They're so different.
When you said that, my head went straight to who had the best snacks, because it was miles apart. The difference
was it? Oh, go on, give us a little bit of gossip, Jace.
John had like pizza, and he had these Christmas tree cake things, and pretzels covered in fudge and stuff, just like all this junk food. And then Damien was like super healthy, vegan, like avocado and tomato sandwiches, fruit. I think he had chips occasionally, didn't he? But really like healthy stuff. And he didn't give. Jayson was carrying some food for him, and we forgot to give it back. So I ate some of it, and it was really nice. It gave me a new snack to try, a little pressed fruit bar thing. So that was cool. So I don't know. It depends what mood you're in as to who you hang out with, doesn't it? Are you feeling? But
I guess running with them, you were like, I should be hanging with these guys. These are my mates, but also I want to be back up doing this sort of stuff as well. Yeah,
it was. It's weird though, because every time I've met John Kelly, it's been in a really rough state of affairs. I don't actually know John very well because I've only ever met him when he's really, really rough. So I've never had a coherent conversation with him at all. I'm sure he's a really nice guy, but I don't know that. Even though I've given him a hug on the top of a mountain.
That's the best relationships.
That's my claim to fame, actually. I've hugged John Kelly.
Well, I've heard it's his too. He said it was.
I think so, yeah. No, so I mean, it was. Yeah, I was supporting John towards the end of the Pennine Way. I was supporting Damien at the beginning, so quite different experiences.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Very different.
But, yeah, it was so cool to be a very small part of that. So that was good kind of inspiration for me, really. So then I started building again to come back to the spine this January. That was always sort of, wanted to come back and put it to bed, but also just enjoy it, because I did have an absolutely epically fantastic time last year. I loved it. and learned so much from it as well. So I was hoping to come back to that. That obviously didn't happen. Probably the training towards the end of last year was a bit half-hearted as well. You kind of at the back of your mind, you knew it wasn't, if it did happen, it was going to be a bit watered down or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think loads of
it was
people felt like
difficult.
that, didn't they? Like,
And that was,
when you should be doing
yeah.
your big days 6 weeks before, and you're like, takes a lot, doesn't it? A lot of energy to put that into that. You have to be
Yeah.
so focused.
I think that's what we saw a lot of last year, is, you know, obviously people training for races that may or may not happen. And the way, you know, we had to look at that was, well, if you don't train and it does happen, it's not going to be very pretty. So, you know, you're better off putting yourself in a position where you can jump on it when it happens. So, you know, that being said, it was still very difficult. Yeah, but then this, so since then, I've kind of, there haven't been any races or, you know, anything that jumped out at me to say, you know, I really want to go and do that this year. I've kind of been going along the lines of more unsupported challenges at the moment are appealing to me and jumping out at me. So that's quite nice, because it's allowed me to start thinking more deeply about the actual enjoying the process of training. And for me personally, that's a bit easier, because to be able to do that is a bit easier because of my military background. When you're training in the military, you're not really training for specific events. A lot of the time you are just training to be able to do your job and to be fit and healthy. So that's quite an enjoyable thing for me to do. So I guess I'm doing that at the moment, you know, doing not just running, cycling, a lot of strength conditioning, trying to get my pull-up max up a bit higher.
Off 2.
Got off 2, yeah. Yeah, so I can nearly do 4 pull-ups now. Yeah, just enjoying training, really. It's great.
I think we, Gary and I talked about that last week, and it's something that, especially this winter, I have just, and I think it saved me, is embracing the process. And just like you said, I just love there's a power in being really fit and healthy, and feeling that if someone said, can you run up that mountain? Can you do that? And you'd be like, if you want me to, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
not a problem. But for me, yeah, the same. It doesn't feel like a job. It's just something that I just feel so much better for feeling fit, rather than sitting at home and looking at the walls or mopping the floor. Or it's definitely changed probably yours as well, Jason, and Kim, the way I look at my training, and instead of it being a slave to the plan. And also the way I coach people, I think I've been a bit more understanding and been like, change stuff. If you don't feel like doing it, change it. And I definitely will keep that thread in my coaching philosophy now. Whereas before, I'd get a bit irked if people change stuff. Control freak. I'd be like, oh, I wrote that and now you've done that. But now I'm like, oh, it's a little bit more empathy there. Only a little bit.
Yeah.
I definitely get that. I was the same. I was always like, well, why would you move it, or why would you change that section, or why not do it, or whatever. I wouldn't say that. I would say it, but not in the way that I just expressed it. but yeah, I'm definitely a lot more like, it's not mine, it's yours, it's your life, and it's your process. And, yeah, it has to fit the person, doesn't it? It can't be about ticking the box all the time.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens this year when races come back, and how people have changed, and if things like FKTs and, as you talked about earlier, Jason, if those will continue in popularity. I've got my eye on the Pembrokeshire Coastal path, which finishes at my mum and dad's. So I'm quite keen to have a crack at one of those.
How far is that?
It's 300 and something miles. About 6 days, the record, I think. Peachy. Don't think I'll take the dogs on that one. So I'd just like to finish off with a little inspiring nugget you could perhaps give to people if they're Jason, the fear in Jason's eyes. One thing you've learned this year, maybe from yourself or from a client, that you could share with people to get them through the next sort of few months. Keep their heads up. Anything. It can be a session. It can be just like we talked, being a bit more kind to themselves. I'll start with you, Kim, because Jason, it might take him 10 minutes to think this out.
The first thing that came into my head was the being more kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Thing. It's something that I find really difficult personally. But I'm definitely working on.
If people read your blogs and your race reports, you're very hard on yourself. If things don't always go, and if things don't go to plan, even if they've often still gone really well, you will go against the grain and be like, and then this went wrong, and then this, and then, but no, I did win. Oh yeah, I did win.
Well, I remember, yeah. I remember one session when you were coaching me. I remember one session I had that I just felt was rubbish. I was hitting the paces, and I was, it was fine. But at the time, I was so on the railway line. I was so angry with myself because it was windy. I was like, "It's rubbish," because it was a headwind. And yeah, so and I've had a couple of people that have really struggled and that have made themselves not well, really, by trying to push through and trying to do everything as normal. This is not normal. This is not a normal situation at all, and we need to remember that. This whole, I don't know if I think Jason might disagree with me, but I don't agree with the whole new normal thing. This is not how we should be as humans. We do need the community back, and when we get it back, it's going to be great. But while we don't have it, it's a very hard place to be in. So if you're trying to just push through as normal and things aren't quite clicking or it's not quite right, you really need to step back and look at what you could change and how you could be nicer to yourself. Because it's not worth it in the long run.
Have you seen it harder on female clients than male clients? I think personally, because I think we thrive on running together, on the chat, on the camaraderie a little bit more than men. I don't know if that goes back to like a caveman thing when we'd be left in the caves all together and the men went out by themselves. But I definitely think the females have struggled more with the isolation. And then, of course, they've had the kids.
I think they've expressed it more.
Yeah. Sure. Oh, yeah. Of course. Yeah.
They've definitely expressed it more. I've seen it and felt it more on the whole. Yeah. With the ladies, and it's the same with us probably. I quite easily have a little meltdown. It almost helps, doesn't it? Have a little meltdown.
Definitely.
Get rid of it, and then you can pick yourself back up again. But in the moment, it's not pleasant. But it does. I think it's something you kind of have to accept is going to happen.
And now. I think women are so much better than that, of the total meltdown, some tears, and then I feel better. Whereas men, it's kind of, come on, it bottles, and it's much harder. Jason, what about you? Anything you kind of expressly learned in the past year? Or
I think as well as the physical, the opportunity to sort of look at the physical fundamental stuff. The big thing that I've done or been doing and still doing is really getting stuck into some mental, psychological type stuff that isn't particularly easy and isn't easy to do when there's lots of races and distractions going on. So yeah, I've been really getting stuck into some quite deep stuff. But I think one of the really cool things that I heard about and looked into a bit more was from another podcast called The Duratus Mind. A really, really interesting podcast. Duratus being hardening the mind, chiseling the mind, honing the mind. Really great podcast, and they talk quite a bit about the obstacle is the way, and how instead of when we come up against something challenging, instead of sort of hiding and avoiding it, actually stepping forward and leaning into it. And that might sound slightly contradictory to what Kim's just said, but yeah, how looking at high achievers do tend to have that attitude of okay, we've come up against something, it's difficult, it's awkward, it's uncomfortable, but actually I'm not going to hide from it. I'm going to go into it and lean into it. I think that's quite a cool way of looking at a lot of challenges, is actually lean into it and push forward and see where that takes you as well.
I guess you need quite a lot of tools to be able to do that, though, because you can't just face something on. You need to really understand yourself and how you work and what motivates you and your own weaknesses and your strengths to kind of use that to go.
That's part of it, isn't it? Like, you learn more about yourself. It's picking your battles, but you learn more about yourself if you can. We've been so vague, aren't we? If you can.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to be careful that you don't say, oh, well, I'm not going to do that yet because I'm not ready to take that on. But actually, the best way to learn how to take that on might be actually to do it.
Try.
And just, even if you fail, and it goes back to this whole, fear of failure and actually failure isn't a bad thing. That's why the Army's using it as the new buzz line, isn't it? So actually, if we do take these things on and it doesn't work out, so what? You've tried, you've learnt from it, you've picked yourself up, keep going.
You're an absolute testimony to that, both of you, of how you've worked on yourselves, on your running, you've developed your coaching business. You're always striving to not only improve your personal performance, but also those of your clients. And I know you do a lot of reading, a lot of research on all sorts of different things, not just running, having worked with you both as well. I could talk to you all day, but I will get told off. Thank you so much. Just a quick shout out. Where can people find you? Where can they find your coaching biz if they want to shout you up?
We've got a website,
cavillcoaching.com, and then just our names on social media. I don't think we're on Twitter. I might have a Twitter account, but yeah, it's too noisy.
Yeah, I don't bother. Yep, shout them up if you're looking for you couldn't find two nicer people to take you on any sort of running journey, and both very different, so there's something for everybody. Thank you so much, Jayson and Kim, for coming on Run to the Hills, and we look forward to, fingers crossed, for races this year. Fingers crossed we'll see you back at the Spine, Jayson. You're going to have another 1,000 podcast followers.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks, Jayson and Kim. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, in the UK, we've just had an announcement with the kind of update with the lockdown situation and a few updated rules over the next kind of few weeks, how things are changing. So we thought we'd take a look at possible races that might be ahead in the summer, and maybe what your training looks like now and possibly in the future if you've got a potential race to aim for. Yeah, Eddie, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's exciting. As I'm a coach, not only for my own business, but for Centurion as well. And they start their sort of rollout of races in April, May. And James is already working in the background of trying to get as much information out to people. He's been brilliant. As to what might happen, but it looks very likely that late spring summer races will be able to go ahead. I think still with like the social distancing in place, the same really as they did last year, but I think people would take anything, wouldn't they? So I was thinking on my long run today, what would I do now if I was looking into that summer? Perhaps I've been like not really following a program, just been running to get out the house, what sort of thing. And sometimes it can feel really daunting if you're not really sure of your fitness, where to even start. You don't want to suddenly throw yourself into something and then get injured. Where do I even start? And it's almost like a block. Like I can't start speed work because I'm going to be so slow. And I always like to start a little bit of speed work or getting people going again after an injury or after, a bit of a timeout I call them sprinkles. So it's not the stuff you put on cake, sadly. But you can imagine it's a bit like that. So I just put into your run, your easy run, wherever you are, 10 or 15 strides a little bit faster. As you feel warmed up, just stride out a little bit. Then we might see a tree see a tree 20 meters away, just a little bit of stride, just get those glutes working, get those feet moving a little bit quicker, a little bit.
Would they be any part of the run or towards the end of the run? Or?
I count, for me as an older runner, it takes about 20-30 minutes until I'm actually moving quite well. So I like to do them or advise people to do them at 20 to 30 minutes after, really, so you're really warmed up. Do like 4 to 6, however you're feeling. Keep it really like low key, but just get those legs turning over. And often when you've done a few of them, you're not looking to get out of breath here. Here, you're just looking to remind the body about how to move a little bit quicker. Often then when you've done a few, and then you go back to your jogging pace, you feel, I feel good. I feel ready to go. And that's how I would sort of start the next couple of weeks, is just putting in these sprinkles into your training, a little bit of strides, slowly getting them a little bit longer. So it's less of like a mind, oh my gosh, how am I going to suddenly put some speed work, suddenly, start following a plan where loads of us haven't been for months and years, it seems like.
Sometimes when you do the speed work, it's not as bad as what you think it's going to be.
Exactly. It's a part. That's why I was like, it's just about once you start and you feel, I actually quite enjoyed that. Especially if you've been a long time away from speed work. I actually quite enjoyed that, and I feel better and I'm moving better. And then you can slowly trick yourself into then, okay, now I'm going to do another little bit. What about you? Do you do bits of things like that, Gary?
Yeah, pretty much. If I'm at the beginning, say a marathon training plan, I'll do pre-marathon plan, and it is strides, minutes, so minute on, minute off, maybe 2 minutes on. I suppose they're more kind of 5K-ish workouts, so they are trying to inject that bit of speed, but nothing too strenuous. A minute, let's say a 5K pace, and then a jog for a minute. And my strides may be a little bit different. I tend to do them at the end of the workout, and I'll run, say, 100 meters or 20 seconds. It'll be 5 seconds where I'll just ease into this, say, 10-second sprint, and then I'll just ease down. I'm not out the blocks and then slamming the brakes on straight away. And then
I like to talk a bit like a long jumper, like when you see the long jumpers build into that long jump, they're sort of like slowly, faster, and then
that's it.
Don't do the jump at the end. Well, you can. I mean,
but I'll walk back to the beginning. I'll usually just walk, so I get a good, could be 90 seconds. Do that, like you say, half a dozen, maybe 10.
You can totally do how you feel, can't you? I never once you've done it a few times, like, yeah, that's good. I'm feeling good. I'm either ready to go or I'm ready to jog home or whatever. But I just thought it was a really nice way if people were a bit like, well, where do I start now? Perhaps I've got a race, half marathon or something. And it can be part of any distance, any training plan. That is the basic way to start.
So many podcasts I listen to, and I'm not a coach, so I don't know the reason behind strides, but I hear it virtually on every podcast where they kind of some form of training advice. Strides, do your strides. And you're not wrecking yourself. It's not 10 times or whatever it is, a kilometer, some massive workout, but it is a good workout without exhausting yourself.
Pop a few sprinkles in and see, let us know how you feel. Right, competition for this week. We found this hilarious, haven't we, Gary? This was Gary's idea. I'm going to blame it all on Gary.
It's a good old-fashioned scavenger hunt. Now, I didn't really know much about these, but one of the running clubs that I am involved with, they quite often do a scavenger hunt, and it may be kind of paralleled with the kind of lockdown and keeping people motivated and engaged as a club. So we thought, we'd do the same, and basically on your run over the weekend, I suppose, and we'll be doing the same too. You go around and you take a picture of an item, and we'll give you a list of the possible items, and be creative. It doesn't have to be exactly what we say. You could say if it's a horse, for example, you could take a picture of a Nag's Head pub or something along that. You don't have to go out and search.
Getting creative already. I love it, Gary. You've been thinking about this. I see the way this is going.
I've never done the scavenger hunts. I'm such a misery on with my running club, but I'll take part this weekend. It should be good fun. But should
we let people know what is it? So we've got 5 things.
Yes, we've got some mud. So if you can find some mud, which should be pretty easy.
We thought that would be good as number 1, because all I see is people whining about the mud on Strava.
And Eddie's idea of a garden gnome.
Not my idea. I said that's ridiculous. Nobody has garden gnomes.
Well, yeah, if you could
Gary's
find a
like
garden.
obviously got some sort of garden gnome fetish, and it's like, I know where there's loads. I know where there's loads.
Yeah. I've got and buy one. The garden centres are open, I think. Yeah.
Three red car. Love a red car.
Yeah. And number 4 is a horse, a cow, or a farmyard animal. You know, we're not fussy.
Not your wife or husband. Don't get
No.
offensive now. And a 30 mile an hour or a speed sign. I know we have many international listeners.
Yeah, and please don't be silly when you're taking these photographs. Be kind of follow COVID guidelines and don't do anything that might
I
get you
can't
hurt.
believe we've reached that point in the podcast. We have to tell people to follow COVID guidelines. And then how are they going to send it to us? Perhaps we should, we're going to put a post on Facebook, and then I guess they have to make it into like a little layout.
Yeah, some kind of pic collage. I think I've seen these apps.
We look forward to seeing that. And you win a delicious sample pack of the vegan cheer charge bars, which according to Tim have gone down a storm.
Yes.
Selling like flying off the shelves. We look forward to munching our way through those.
And we'll do
very
our
soon.
high-tech competition winner selector next week too. Actually, no, we should probably...
We might need to copyright that because people are going to be after that very soon. So what you got planned? What's coming up?
Oh, well.
Now that Bob Graham Round is pretty much going to be on.
Fingers crossed,
it's
yes.
time to get some...
well, I'm going
some
straight in the
big
deep end this weekend. I've got a marathon. Straight in with a marathon.
We've been talking for a couple of hours now, and you've not. I'd have thought that'd be the first thing that you'd be like, Eddie, I'm doing a marathon.
Yeah, I did a marathon. Well, the Marathon Club, Northeast Marathon Club, you know, we had Melanie in on last week. But every year they do their AGM, and they do a free marathon for members. And obviously we can't do that this year, so we're doing a Zoom AGM, and they're doing a virtual marathon, and it's any time over this weekend. It's free. We just kind of say we're going to do it. There's no route, and I've kind of Garmin the course, 26 miles, and I've gone via McDonald's, Costa Coffee. I've got the whole shebang. So I've roped another friend. I know you mentioned last week about I kind of pick and choose my friends for long runs.
Have you chosen a fast friend, a slow friend that likes snacking? Obviously, this
is a social friend. Ray he's not ran the marathon distance in a while, so. Could be 6 hours we're out by the time we stop.
Oh, you're gonna have a spa day like me.
Yeah,
no shots of tea and an old peanut butter sandwiches for you guys though.
Pancakes and lattes. And what about yourself?
What have I got coming up? More skiing. So I'm going for a big 25 hours worth of volume this week. I know I talk about that a lot. So I've got a couple of other big ski days, but I'm doing that like you. I'm doing it it'll be less head down and more seeing some mates, going out for some nice long days. We've got the most beautiful sunshine. Not great for skiing, but great for tanning. And so it makes it a joy to be outside. So I'm going to make the most of the kids being back at school and have a couple of longer days on skis, because I think then after this week it will be nearly all running and biking again for me. There's no snow on the horizon.
Yeah.
So the roads are clear, trails are starting to be clear. So just keep on plugging away, trying to get my Bambi legs back used to running again. But I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling normally I come out of the winter feeling really, really tired.
Yeah.
Because I've tried to juggle so much running, and running on the snow is really tiring. And though I've done a lot more, I think I'm coming out of it thinking, oh, okay, I'm not as fit running, but I feel within myself much stronger and more kind of robust. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Could be a disastrous experiment, and I could end up not able
hopefully
to run.
Being robust will kind of make you less injury prone and stuff like that. I don't know about that side.
I think so. And running in, anyone that's running the mountains, the trail running in the mountain is, it's really hard on the body. It's relentless up and down and rocky. And so I think hopefully it's going to stand me in good stead. And if anything, I was listening to something about the change is so good for your body when you've done so. I've been running pretty much every day since I was 17, 18 now. So this is the least amount of running I've ever done. So I'm quite excited. I think my body's gone, oh, thank God. Something different. So we'll see. But it's all good. I'm in a good place. I hope everybody has a great week. I'm Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And let's
run
to the hill.